As I was flipping through my journals from the last couple of years, I realized what got me consistently into journaling was my monthly reflections. This was a way for me to think about a new month. I feel like sometimes the new year reflections can be a little overwhelming. They just become a lot. I felt myself procrastinating doing them, interestingly enough, even though typically I really enjoy, putting together my vision board. I like to think of it as a mood board. I feel like it takes a little bit of the pressure off. But I felt myself procrastinating that, and it took me a little bit of time to get to it and really think about what I wanted from this year. And I do feel like they work for me. So I want to make sure that I'm spending the time to be reflective and like really thinking about what I want. But what I did notice is that typically over the past couple years, I will say over the past 3 or so years, I have asked or wanted the same things of myself. I have always kind of stuck to the same kind of hobbies. I want to build a fitness routine that I really enjoy. I want to be better about practicing and learning Italian consistently. I want to read more, I want to cook more, I want to lean into the hobbies that I know I've always enjoyed and try my best to really ensure that I'm making time for those things, because we know how busy life gets, and I feel like in a lot of places routine is set, but it's not always the case in the things that exist out of like work, maybe family, friends, fitness. Like we're not always spending the time there. So that's kind of been my through line of 2026 especially. And I feel like now I've absolutely been able to establish a consistent routine for a lot of those things. In this current moment, we know things change. But I will say that the one thing that has been a through line in all of this is doing my monthly reflections, or my monthly journal prompts, whatever it may be. And those have been fairly consistent over the past couple of years. As I was reflecting on my previous journals here, I've found that these have been the places that I've been able to come back at least at the beginning of a month or the end of a month and do the same kind of practice and feel like I'm living in the moment, being a little bit more present and documenting it. For me, my journals, and I guess for a lot of people, my journals kind of exist in a way that I want to keep them so that I can remember these things in the future. Take a lot of pictures, started posting on YouTube. These are all documentation and all a way for me to have these memories. But I also think that these journals can just exist for you, and they're fun. They're fun to go through and kind of see what I thought was important and references and quotes that I've started to live through and live by. And I just feel like it's interesting to see, like, this was my 2020 journal. And, April 2020 was a rough time because I was dealing with the pandemic, as the world was, but also just trying to work through some really anxious thoughts and figuring out what I wanted to do, because I had just, graduated from my post-grad and wanted to know what the future held for me. And now, 6 years later, I can see that. But at the time, I can see where my mindset was. And, I started therapy consistently. Things I'm grateful for at the time, how my thoughts were working, and the little things that I researched. But I will say that is all, I would say now, a part of my more commonplace thought process, which I guess I could talk about another time, but this is going to focus specifically on my monthly journal prompts. Before I even get into journaling about the upcoming month, I do a monthly moments from the previous month. Like for example, in January, that was a really slow month in terms of just stuff going on, but I had some really beautiful moments of, celebrating my friend's birthday, her 30th birthday. She's the first in my friend group to turn 30, so that was really beautiful. I saw some friends for coffee that I hadn't seen in a while and just wanted to reconnect with. I picked up my wedding dress, which is a big deal. We celebrated some wonderful birthdays. There are things that I think if you kind of just think about January in general, you don't always focus on specifically, but it's nice to look back and see what I wrote down for previous months. Like, for example, in April 2023, I went to Paris, which was really fun. It was kind of a quick, just spur of the moment trip, almost to visit a friend. My highlights were sightseeing, shopping, all the croissants I had. I celebrated Easter with my nonna, which was really beautiful. We did a ceramics workshop, Brenda and I, which was really fun. And Brenda celebrated his 27th birthday. So those were the things that I wrote down from that month. Now, if you're looking for things that you could write about or think to write about for your journal, I would probably start in general, how do you want to feel this month? Those are typically the questions I ask myself. The main three are, how do I want to feel coming into the month? What do I want to focus on this month? And what I'm asking for. That's kind of a way just to put it out into the universe in a sense. What I'm looking forward to is something that I've also added to my list, just because I think it can put you a little bit into the future, and I know the point is to be present, but I think in the current place in my life that I'm at, I do need to remind myself that there are things that are coming, and I should be excited about those things. So those are kind of what I start my thought process with. And another thing that I like to kind of do list away is my ins and outs. I know that's typically been something we've seen online pretty often. I can't remember where I first saw this trend, but I think it's fun. I like to just make a list for myself. It doesn't have to go anywhere, but again, things that I really enjoyed and things that I'm trying to maybe distance myself from. So some ins that I wrote for last month were grayscaling my phone because I just felt like I was spending way too much time on my phone. I'm really into a tea in the morning. They don't have to be revolutionary, okay? Really into having a tea in the morning, and just spending some time and really building that ritual for yourself and allowing yourself to ease into your routine. And I'm really into brooches. That was another in for last month for me. They can kind of just be anything that you are finding yourself being drawn to. And then outs, one out for me consistently has just been distancing myself from TikTok. I deleted my TikTok last month, or I deactivated it in the app. Haven't really felt like I've been missing anything, but I have noticed that my scrolling need has come back, so I re-signed up for Twitter, which, you know, what does that mean? Maybe something to think about. In the same vein, you can also do energy givers and takers. I think it's the same as like ins and outs, but maybe focused on things that made you feel good in the month and made you feel not so great. So energy givers have definitely been going to the gym consistently, which I've been enjoying. Carving out some time to read in the evening in particular. I would say another one is limiting my app times. I've been adjusting those times. I've also been setting all of my YouTube videos, because I have a habit of falling asleep to YouTube videos that I'm trying to get through and not do consistently, but I've been setting them to sleep timers, so that's been a good giver. Taker has definitely been the lack of sun, but we're kind of through that now because it has not been sunny here. And then I think another fun thing just for me to read in the future, and I like reading, is what I'm reading, watching, eating, wearing, listening to in that given moment. So in May of 2023, I was watching Modern Family, listening to, and that's why we drank the podcast, which I still listen to. I was reading The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which I picked up in Paris. I don't think I ever finished it, but I have the book still. And I think that's just fun to reference and be like, okay, what was I into at this time? How did I feel? And this was at the same time that I was preparing for a trip to Miami with my other friends, and how I was mentally preparing myself, what I needed to do, and seeing what, you know, I was excited about. And I even wrote a little themes note to myself. So again, another spin on ins and outs, things I'm into, just as a reference for myself to understand what I liked. And because I was going to Miami, I wrote vitamin D from the sun. So not drops. I'll leave a couple more journal prompts that I like to use. I feel like consistently I've been using the same ones, but typically I just like to see kind of what my mindset was at the time and how I'm feeling. I use a lot of these things, and you know, sometimes my months have a lot of moments. I did a lot, like this is from September of 2024, I think. And there was a lot that I did, which was really fun. And it could just be, you know, trying a new recipe and things like that. And sometimes it's like 2 or 3 things. Like I wrote September 30th at 11:57 a.m. Procrastinating works. What does that mean? I don't know.